Hello, very good evening, everyone. My name is Virender. I have started the series of this Indian Constitution on my channel, that is Samadhan ICS. So I took the initiative to start this series of Indian Constitution. I have already informed you what will be my sources to teach this particular session of Indian Constitution, a very important part of Indian polity. So let's start the first lecture of Indian polity. That is the evolution of Indian Constitution, how everything has started in India. First thing, in 13th century, as we have discussed in modern history also, in 13th century, a cultural movement has started, has begun, that is called as Renaissance. Renaissance, that was a cultural movement that has started in whole Europe. So whole Europe was under coverage of such kind of movement that was called as the Renaissance. So after such kind of movement like whole European traders or whatsoever the sailors would like to explore more and more land area across the world and would like to have a good relations, maybe a trade relation, or would like to definitely transform their important message or important fortunate that to transfer humongous amount of continent into the Christianity. Anyhow, what we have discussed, that was there in the modern history part. Let's see what happened after that. European sailors began to explore trade relations with a number of areas. So they come to this part of the world, that's the eastern part. So few Europeans, Portuguese and Spanish. Portuguese reached to India. Apart from that Portuguese, there are a number of other Western Europeans. They also reached to India. So after Portuguese, first person who reached to India, he was Vasco da Gama. He came to India in 1498. So that is not very important. That nowadays such questions have weren't asked in exam. They may be asked what the reason why he came to India. So the very particular answer in hunting of spices. So we are very sure about such thing that earlier also the spices has been traded from India, not from the sea route but from the land route, from this area of Middle East, or we can say from area of Persia, then Egypt, then to Europe. But later on they discovered the this area of this passage of sea, and they started trading with India from this sea route. After these Portuguese traders, other traders came to India. They were Dutch people, French people, and Britishers. But due to certain reasons, only Britishers remained in India for a very longer period of time. So later Britishers remained in India, and they incorporated a body. They created a body that named as a court of director or court of proprietor. So in some of the examination, maybe examiner may ask you what is the meaning of court of proprietor. So court of proprietor, court of director, both are the same. See, court of director or court of proprietor simply meaning is that under the council of this British East India Crown, that was under the Queen Elizabeth at that time. So under the crownship of Queen Elizabeth, under the supervision of her, they have created a body of a private player. The body of those private player named as the court of director. So nothing as such in the rocket science into this thing. So it is simply a private player body. Those were there in India for trade and commercial purpose, and they created a company named as the British East India Company, and that company was created in India in 1600 century, and later in 1608 they got the permission, and 1613 they imposed their first factory in Surat, that we have discussed in our modern history part earlier also. And later on, say after 100 years, they incorporate whole small submerged companies in a single united company, and the name of that company they have created, that was the United Company of Merchants of England trading to East Indies. So this part of the world is called East Indies. So they later on in 1708 they changed this company. The name of this company has been changed to this company. And the new company they have formed, that was the United Company of Merchant of England trading to East Indies. So they have created this new name of this company. So earlier they have started in business in India as under the crown banner of East India Company of Britain or England. Later in the course of time, what happened? In the course of time, the private players were earning quite well. So those who were there in India, those were the private players. There is a very little intervention from the government side. So most of the players they are earning in India from this company, that was British East India Company. Those were the private players, and they were earning quite well in India. So here is the problem. They were earning quite well in India, but when the government was asking tax from them, so they were denying that we don't have a good amount of money. So they are anyhow doing a kind of tax evading thing. So they are not giving taxes to the government on the regular basis, and this has created a kind of jealousy in the mind of parliamentaries those who are sitting there in House of Lords or House of Commons in England. So they have created something which was very prominent in India, and later on this thing actually put a series of n number of acts in India. So what actually happened at that time, in the course of time, the private players were earning quite well, but act of taxes, and but there we have seen the act of tax evasions. They start stealing the taxes. So whatever the tax has been asked by the government, they always whenever government asks the tax, they raise their hand. They always said to the government, we don't have anything in our pocket. But on the other course of hand, they are making good property, making good piece of land, and creating huge buildings for themselves, but they are not giving something to the government. So this arose the jealousy of the British parliamentaries in London, and in order to satisfy their zeal, in order to satisfy their jealous, what Britain have done, what the government have done, they intervened very properly to the private players, and in order to regulate the affairs of the company, that company was the private company under the banner of court of directors. But the head of these company, what the head of the company, that was East India Company. So in order to regulate the affair of the company, those were the private player. In 1773, first time they enacted the Regulating Act 1773. So whenever somebody have asked you what is the meaning of Regulating Act, so you would definitely come to understand this thing. The meaning regulation. Regulation means to put imposition, to do some limit something, to ban something. Okay, to make a rule on something. It is the regulation. So to whom they have created these kind of rule? To the private players. They have created rules on the private player of the England only, not to the Indians. Whosoever Indians are there in India, that is not actually meant directly for the Indians. That was for the Britishers, those who were the British player in India. They were trading in India under the British crown. So thus this regulation rule has been created for them in 1773. Later on, there the n number of imposition has been created under this rule. We will see in next video lecture. So in this lecture, you just got to understand that initially in 13th century, the process of Renaissance have started. Then after that, many Europeans came, went to n number of island, n number of countries, and in order to search everything or the piece of land or the trading partnership, the Vasco da Gama searched the route via sea, and he came to India in 1498, and later started a trade relation. After that, he was followed by Dutch, French, and Denmarkese peoples, but he never remained in India for a very longer period of time. So who remained in India very longer period of time? Those were the Britishers, and they earned a good amount of money. But initially, initially there was only one company, that is East India Company of England, and after that there were a number of companies has been created in India, and after 100 years they incorporated whole company in a single banner. The name of that company, they created that the United Company of Merchant of England, trading to East Indies. And later they started earning a quite well amount of money. So whenever the government asked them the tax, so they always start giving a number of excuses. So that's arose a kind of jealous in the mind of government parliamentaries over there in London. So they have created a kind of act. That act was a Regulating Act. In order to regulate those Britishers are there in India as a private player, in order to sustain their limit earning, so they have created such act. So what is there in this act, we will discuss in the next video lecture. Thank you so much. If you have any doubt, do ask me. Thank you.